Hello, and welcome back to medieval history. Today, we are witnessing a death knell that echoed across 1,000 years, the dramatic and tragic fall of Constantinople in 1453. This wasn't just the end of a city, it was the final destruction of the Byzantine Empire, the direct heir to ancient Rome, and an event that irrevocably changed the map, the religion, and the politics of Europe and the Mediterranean. By the mid-15th century, the once vast Byzantine Empire had shrunk to little more than the city of Constantinople itself, a glittering, besieged island in a sea of Ottoman territory. The city's emperor was Constantine XI Palaiologos, a man whose dignity and courage far outweighed his resources. He ruled a population of perhaps 50,000 and a treasury that was virtually empty. Opposing him was the young, brilliant, and ruthlessly ambitious Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, Mehmed II. Having inherited the throne at age 19, Mehmed was determined to fulfill a generations-old Islamic prophecy by conquering the Second Rome. For Mehmed, Constantinople was not just a military target, it was a political necessity and a personal obsession. Mehmed's preparations were meticulous. He personally supervised the construction of the enormous Rumeli fortress on the European side of the Bosphorus Strait, directly opposite an older Byzantine fort. This fort gave the Ottomans complete control over maritime traffic, effectively isolating Constantinople from outside aid. But Mehmed's true game-changer was his artillery. Medieval walls, including the massive Theodosian walls that had protected Constantinople for a millennium, were built to withstand trebuchets and conventional siege engines. They were not built to withstand gunpowder. Mehmed employed a Hungarian engineer named Orban, who constructed the largest cannons the world had ever seen. The greatest of these was the massive basilic, a bronze behemoth that could fire a stone ball weighing over 1,200 pounds. Moving and operating these cannons was an immense logistical feat, requiring hundreds of men and oxen. These supercannons were pointed directly at the Theodosian Walls, signaling a brutal shift in the nature of warfare. Against Mehmed's army of roughly 80,000 to 100,000 professional soldiers and thousands of auxiliary troops, Emperor Constantine XI could muster only about 7,000 to 8,000 defenders, roughly half of whom were foreign mercenaries, Genoese, Venetian, and Catalan volunteers. The most crucial foreign leader was Giovanni Giustiniani Longo, a Genoese soldier whose expertise in fortification and defense was priceless. The defense was heroic. They had the unparalleled advantage of the Theodosian Walls, a triple line of massive stone fortifications stretching 4 miles across the landward side. For 6 weeks, the small band of defenders held off the crushing might of the Ottoman army. Every breach caused by the massive Ottoman cannons was immediately and desperately repaired overnight by the exhausted Byzantines and the city's populace. The city was surrounded by water on 3 sides. The narrow mouth of the Golden Horn, the city's crucial harbour, was protected by a massive iron chain. As long as the chain held, the city could be resupplied, and its northern flank was safe. Mehmed II, frustrated by the stalemate and the continuous naval battles, decided on a stroke of genius that defied all military logic. He ordered his men to construct a massive slipway of greased logs over the hills north of the city. On April 22, 1453, the Ottomans dragged 70 warships overland and launched them into the Golden Horn, bypassing the defensive chain entirely. This move was a stunning psychological blow and forced Constantine to spread his already minuscule defense force even thinner. By May 29th, the Sultan knew time was short. His own troops were growing restless, and European relief might still arrive. He ordered a final all-out assault. The Ottomans attacked in 3 waves, each more determined than the last. First the poorly equipped irregulars to tire the defenders, then the regular Anatolian and Balkan troops, and finally the elite Janissaries. The fate of the city turned on 2 devastating events. First, a small postern gate on the walls, the Kerkeporta, was somehow left unlocked or possibly betrayed. Second, the Genoese commander Giustiniani was mortally wounded and had to be carried away from the walls. His loss demoralized the defenders, causing panic and disarray. The Janissaries poured through the breaches. Emperor Constantine XI, seeing the end was upon them, reportedly tore off his imperial regalia and, declaring, "The city is fallen, but I am still alive," led his remaining men into the final desperate street fighting where he was lost and killed, his body never definitively identified. The fall of Constantinople was a seismic event that immediately reshaped the geopolitical balance of power and profoundly influenced the intellectual life of Europe. It marked the definitive end of the thousand-year Byzantine Empire, the last living remnant and direct heir of the ancient Roman Empire itself. This event elevated the Ottoman Empire to the undisputed status of a superpower, giving them a glorious new capital in the renamed Istanbul and cementing their permanent presence in Eastern Europe and the Mediterranean for the next 5 centuries. This expansion was a massive threat to the rest of Christian Europe, pushing the frontiers of conflict westward and forcing countries like Venice and Hungary to fight for their survival. Perhaps the most surprising consequence was the boost the conquest gave to the European Renaissance. As the Ottoman threat grew, many Greek scholars fled westward from the collapsing or threatened Byzantine territories, especially from Constantinople before and after the siege. These scholars carried with them priceless collections of classical Greek texts and philosophical works that had been preserved in Byzantine libraries for centuries, but were unknown in the West. This influx of original classical knowledge energized Italian humanists, accelerating Europe's intellectual and cultural revival and laying the foundation for the scientific inquiry that defined the modern age. Furthermore, the technological lesson learned at Constantinople was stark and immediate. The overwhelming power of gunpowder and cannon warfare against traditional stone fortifications. The success of Mehmed's massive guns proved that the era of the seemingly impregnable medieval castle was over. Military architects across Europe instantly realized they needed new defensive strategies and new weapons, fundamentally changing military doctrine and ushering in the early modern age of warfare. The conquest demonstrated that faith, walls, or sheer courage could no longer stop concentrated firepower. The city was renamed Istanbul and became the glorious capital of the Ottoman Empire. But the legend of the city, the emperor, and the final tragic defense lives on as one of history's most dramatic finales. If you were moved by the story of this epic clash, please hit that like button and subscribe to Medieval History for more world-changing moments. Let us know. Did the fall of Constantinople hasten or hinder the modern age? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.